you fiddled with the knob. You caught yourself fiddling with the knob.
No, I accidentally fiddled. I unconsciously fiddled with it before, but I haven't touched it since, the last episode.
I am not confident that you have not touched it since then.
Why would I have touched it? It sits like way back on the desk where it's like.
Why did you fiddle with it the other day?
Well, I was just, fiddling about.
Maybe in your sleepwalk.
But I noticed that I did it. How would I do it without noticing?
I think you might have sleep fiddled like Nero. You just get up in the middle of the night and you wander over there. You fiddle with the knob, and then you go back to sleep.
Should I put a piece of tape leg on it?
I used to do that on the mixer. I actually taped the pre-faders in the positions I'd calibrated them to for all our different microphones.
I moved it like a millimeter. What? Did I move it in the wrong direction?
Yeah.
Which direction? Okay, that's the quiet direction.
Yeah, you got quieter. As long as it doesn't clip in your audition. That sounded too loud.
Obviously, that's too loud.
I started streaming so the listener gets to enjoy this.
All right, whatever. It's good enough.
Yeah, I think we're good. Oh wow, there's like 4 people watching. All right.
Wow, so many people. Whoa, 4
people. Yeah.
Such a big number. Oh my God.
It's more than 0.
You're gonna become a YouTube partner with those big numbers in the single digits.
I mean, I have more subscribers than Dr. Disrespect.
Sure.
All right, I think we're good to go. It's Thursday, July 2nd, 2020. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we're talking about those food subscription boxes that millennials are so excited about. So something weird happened to me over the last few days. There was a minor drama. So a few days ago in the evening, I'm going to cook something, right? So I start some water boiling, like on the stove, like you do. And I set the oven to preheat, like you do. And as the oven starts preheating, the oven smells weird.
Not like gas?
It does not smell like unburnt gas. That is not something I would misidentify. I even Googled
something in the oven that was burning. That was
my first thought, because I grew up in the Midwest, and for those of you who don't know, it is weirdly common in the Midwest for people to store their bread and even sometimes other groceries in the oven.
I do not do that. Nor have I ever done that.
I don't think people do that except in the Midwest. But in the Midwest, it's a thing.
That's definitely a dumb idea, or unless you never use your oven, ever.
Yep. So as a kid, I just remembered anytime I was going to use the oven, I'd open it, I'd take out like whatever bread was in there, and then I'd preheat the oven. So to this day, if you ever watch, like as an adult, this is so ingrained in my head from being a kid in the Midwest. Watch, anytime I'm going to preheat the oven, I hit preheat, I start it, and then I open the oven, I look inside, and then I close it again. It's just a habit that I'll never break. I don't store anything in my fucking oven because I'm not an idiot.
Before I use the oven, I also open it to check inside to make sure the racks are in the correct position.
True.
Because I don't want to move them after they heat up.
But the inside of the oven smells really weird, and it vaguely smells like either burning plastic or like really messed up food. Like I wasn't sure, but it wasn't a super strong smell, but it was there. So I look around the oven like, did something fall off the pan the last time I was using the oven? Like I didn't see any new black marks or new garbage or anything in there. And I futzed around a little. I even opened the bottom door, like to check to see that the flame was the right color.
Was there something on top of the oven? Because sometimes when I use my oven, it gets really hot on top of the range.
Yep.
Because the heat comes up through the,
I checked up there too. There was not a problem that I could see. I even opened that little door though to check like what color was the flame inside the oven. Because if the actual flame in the oven is not the right orange or blue, you're getting incomplete combustion, which is a big problem. But everything was fine there. So I just cooked with this weird smell. And I didn't think about it.
Wouldn't it make your food taste bad?
It didn't. Like it was fine.
Okay, I would not cook with a weird smell out of fear of ruining
because it wasn't that strong of a smell, and it got a little weaker like later after the oven was preheated. Mm-hmm. So I figured, all right, I'll deal with that later. Like I got to clean the oven anyway. It's been a while. So the next day, Emily's cooking, and I'm in here like messing with stuff, and she comes in and she's like, "The oven smells really weird. Like the range smells really weird." But she was not using the oven; she was just using the cooktop.
Okay.
So I come out and sure enough, it smells like the same weird smell that came out of the oven the previous day is now coming. It smells like it's coming out of the fire itself on the top of the stove.
Was there something in the gas that wasn't good?
Yeah, so at that point, that's where it was a weird thing. And so I start Googling around because the best way I could describe the smell then, when I really this has happened 2 days in a row and it's not just the oven. This is weird. I went from, I'll keep an eye on this situation to, I need to actively investigate this situation because I don't this is something that I do not have knowledge of. So I Google for, and this is where it was funny. I started Googling for kerosene smell from, and Google recommended natural gas stove immediately. And there's a million results for that exact question. People will
just
say
Google for contaminated gas or something.
I mean, I Googled for all those sorts of things, but everyone kept a vaguely kerosene or bad propane or a smell in that class coming from a natural gas normal stove that previously never had a smell like that. And I found a million results, mostly in places like Quora or Yahoo Ask or Reddit or Stack Exchanges, where people were like, why is my oven smelling like this suddenly? And about half of them were people bought a brand new oven and it smells like that for the first month when you use it. And then it just kind of stops smelling like that. But we've been using this same stove and oven for 11 years. We've not replaced the starter or anything in it. I don't use oven cleaner in it. I don't use its cleaning cycle. Done nothing weird to this thing. So the other reason most people say it has this smell is something that I never even considered. So the stories all went the same way. The smell started happening. And then when I scroll all the way down through the comments at the bottom, the answer was, I figured it out. And it was always something like, I painted my basement, or I painted a room in my house, or I varnished my floors, and my oven smelled like this for 3 weeks afterward. I ended up finding some gas websites, gas company websites, that had facts that even had things like, if you smell a smell like this, here are the likely causes. And the first question they ask in those facts when you're trying to troubleshoot is, have you painted or varnished anything in your house recently?
Did they paint in the hallway finally?
The apartment next to us is empty and is currently being completely repainted.
All right, you got to air it out. So
apparently what happens is, the paint smell was gone at this point. They're done painting that apartment.
Oh yeah, but it's still around.
It's around, so apparently it hangs around for a month, and you'll never smell it or notice it. But if you have exposed open flames, they will combust those particles that you can't smell, and they will make this very specific kerosene-esque odor. So because our neighbor's apartment was being painted, our gas stove smells like kerosene and probably will for another couple weeks.
Why don't you just open the windows and blow some fans?
Yeah, so now I open it's hot.
And don't you have that air filter thing too? That could probably help.
That air filter will not remove those types of things unless I put a different filter in it that's expensive, and that's not a common problem. Yeah, so we opened all the windows, and the smell went down, but it's still there, and it's lower. And I guess we have to wait a couple weeks for it to completely dissipate.
Okay.
Some people reported it took 2 or 3 months, but those people had done things like painted sealant over the walls of their entire basement. So yeah,
okay.
That was, so if you ever have a gas stove that never smelled like kerosene before and one day it smells like kerosene, did you paint your house recently?
Did you paint anything recently?
Yeah, did you paint something? I feel like the wrong Gundam kit could cause this problem.
Yeah. All right, well, the only open-y type bit I have is that, since going outside is kind of dangerous, I don't do that too much, right? And I don't have to go to work in an office and not biking there. I've been riding the inside bike ever since my building reopened the Gime.
Oh, yeah.
And the inside bike, it's not that fun, but it's more fun than no bike.
I've been forcing myself. I've been biking outside every weekend instead and running outside, avoiding people.
So I biked on the nowhere bike, the bike to nowhere, every day, for I guess 6 days a week, except for there was one day, I guess I missed one day there was 1 week I only did 5 days because I got really tired and I was napping on the couch.
That happens. I mean, how crazy I am about running. I don't run every day. Some days I'm just you know what? I'm just going to play video games and go to sleep.
No, I just figured it's I'm not biking that much, right?
Yeah.
I was used to bike every day, right? Almost every day. Anyway, So now today, the Gime in the building got closed because, virus, right? And then they're like, okay, we're reopening it. Today they send an email. Oh yeah, the health department came and said they're gonna fine us unless we close this. They closed it again.
Interesting.
So, and I guess tomorrow I'm gonna maybe try to just go outside and be like, well,
See, what's interesting, I'm not sure what the rule there is, because when I read the regulations that were passed in New York, it seemed to imply that like those kinds of rules technically only applied to like commercial public
that's
gyms.
what I thought too. This is an in the building gym, not a Planet Fitness.
My
or
building's
Gold's
gym has
or some shit.
definitely not closed. I'm not using it. One, because it's small, like it's basically just this atrium. But their rule is basically you have to wear a mask while you're in there, and only one person can be in there at a time.
No, ours is just, it was open, and ours is basically, it's an apartment where they just took the walls down.
Oh no, that's way worse. Ours is was made to be a gym room.
Well, it was a large apartment where the walls were taken. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Ours is like this atrium.
There's even a sauna.
It's like an atrium connected
to
to the building, like
there's
past
a
the
sauna
library.
and a bathroom in it.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous of that sauna. We don't got anything like that.
I've never used it. I've never seen anyone use it.
I would use it if I had a
I don't
sauna.
know how to use it. How do I use it properly?
I would gladly teach you if I could use your sauna.
They say that no, I would let you come and teach me to use the sauna, but there's actually a rule that visitors may not use the Gime, even if it was open.
Our building has that rule, but I've often let people who visit us use our Gime because they don't
I'm
care.
sure we could get away with it, but yeah, it has like a temperature setting, and it's like, what do I set it to? 100, 200?
Oh yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, you could possibly pass out and have a problem. If you set
I don't know
that
what
wrong.
and it's like, and then there's like, it's got the little thing where you pour the water from the bucket with the little
Yeah,
thing.
you got to be careful with that. Noobs will do things like splash a bunch of water on it, and that is not what you want to do.
Yeah, I know. So maybe I could just watch a YouTube video like how to sauna with some Finnish person.
I'm sure there's some amazing Finnish video that is like, here is how to sauna, that is funny and wrong, and another one that is extremely correct.
But the thing is, I think their demo sauna would be much higher quality than the one that's in
I am actually impressed that you have a real sauna, because almost every apartment building I've ever seen in New York does not have a real sauna. They have a hotel sauna that is designed to make sure that even idiots cannot hurt themselves, where you turn a dial that is just a timer. You can't customize the temperature, and there's no rocks.
Oh no! This is like a little room made like the size of a small bathroom.
Those good wood walls.
It's
little
wooden
wood bench.
on the it's like a door to get a glass door to get in there, so you can see what's going on in there. Right?
Yeah.
And there's two levels of wooden bench, right? There's like tier 1 and tier 2, and in the corner next to the door is, I don't know if it's rocks, but it's definitely the place where you can dump water. And on the outside next to the door is a little control panel where you can set, the settings.
Oh, that's so nice.
I don't know how to use it, but there it is.
Once in my life, I was party to and smartly fled from before consequences occurred a sauna incident.
Uh-oh.
Well, our marching band was up in Canada for some competition. I don't remember what. So like 250 high schoolers are in this hotel in Canada, and it had a sauna. And the entire percussion group, plus me and a couple trumpet players, were all in the sauna. I'll summarize the story. An unnamed individual who was not me and not someone I was a fan of stood up, walked over toward the rocks, and clearly was about to pee on them.
Oh.
I got the eye of the other trumpet players with me. I was like, we got to get out of here. And he was like, what? And I pointed, and he was like, oh, shit. And we ran. I don't know exactly how it went down, but everyone inside started screaming, and they could not all get out of the sauna because they blocked the door, falling over each other. It was chaos.
Yeah, that person should be in big trouble.
My advice to anyone out there, do not pee on the sauna rocks. Trust
or the
me.
electric fence.
Yeah. So in some news that may affect some of you, many of you, actually a lot of you, way more of you than I expected, subscribe to my Twitter block list. Now, my block list is not it's not a block list that I need to protect myself so much as I have added groups of harassing accounts to it over the years to help my friends protect themselves. Like, notably, I created this thing way back when that whole Vic thing was going on, and I wrote a Python script and used some logic to find basically every shithead in that area of the internet and add them all to a block list that other people could subscribe to. And a surprising number of people in the anime world subscribed to it, and those kids didn't realize that everyone they were trying to harass couldn't see them anymore. But Block Together, the service I use to do this, is shutting down. And the main reason they're shutting down is that The technology they've deployed could probably have been done better. Like you and I, if we made a similar service, could have architected a lot better. But also Twitter has locked down their APIs to make it a giant pain in the ass to do anything like this. So
I really don't understand. It's like Twitter, there's always been this pattern of businesses, technology companies, right? Where when they start out, they're open source, free API.
Yep. Hey, here's an API. Do something cool.
By being so open and so free, right? People come to their platform and build upon it for free, helping. It's like giving them free labor, right?
Like the Twitter API used to do a lot. It was really
used to do
cool.
Everything you could do on Twitter, you could do with the API. And then they get big, and then once people are big, they're saying, okay, we got to lock it down. We got to charge money. We got to close things up, right? It's like...
Like, if you want to know
why
there used to be a lot of really good Android Twitter clients and now there aren't any, it's because Twitter removed all the features from the API necessary to make a good Twitter app.
It's like you just did work to develop those features. Why would you delete them?
Yep.
Right?
Now,
it's like no one's going to pay you for that feature.
Now, you'd think, why is Twitter doing this? Like, why is Twitter making it so hard to use the very simple API that just lets you block an account? Like, why? So, I found this article from 2015 where Twitter had implemented massive block features that they didn't have before. They implemented this whole thing where you can import and export block lists. So I could make a big block list of like all those Vig Mignogna fans, and I could share it with all my friends, and they could just import that block list. Like Twitter started making features that do the things that this block together thing did. So you might think, okay, I guess Twitter is trying to like run this themselves for some reason instead of letting someone else do all the work. Okay. And they even shared this article talking about how sharing block lists will help you make Twitter safer. Like they highlighted it as a feature of Twitter to make Twitter a safer place, especially for people who get harassed. Fast forward now to 2020. Twitter very recently, like in the last couple months, removed the ability to import and export block lists. Mm-hmm. Twitter seems to have removed almost every safety feature that they implemented over the last many years just in the last few months.
Okay.
I don't know why. It seems insane. Twitter is even, like, they've throttled their APIs such that even that Chrome plugin that you can click on some shitty Twitter account and automatically block everyone who follows that account, they've throttled the APIs such that that thing doesn't work anymore either. Mm-hmm. Twitter is like aggressively going after features that make it easy for people to block Nazis. And I don't know why. The only reason I bring this up on a Thursday is to make a more broad point. The problem with like harassment on the internet is not a technology problem. The tools to handle this are fairly trivial to make. The problem is that platforms actively prevent people from using these kinds of tools and actively avoid just banning all the accounts that are the problem. Like Reddit recently, they shut down all these awful subreddits. Why didn't they just ban literally every account that was in those subreddits?
That's what I said.
If the subreddit is bad enough to be banned, then you should ban fucking everybody who used that thing ever. Yeah. And sure, maybe there's a little bit of friendly fire. Someone subscribed by accident. I don't care. We already agreed as a society that blocking 99.999% of all email is worth the trouble. Like, we all agree that we'd rather block every spam no matter what, even if a surprising percentage of valid emails get flagged as spam. Why don't we just apply that logic to everything?
If your Gmail spam filter, right, never ever accidentally mark something as spam that wasn't spam, but occasionally a spam got through, you would be upset. You'd be like, what the fuck is a spam in my Gmail, right? So what Gmail does is it never lets a spam. There's never been a spam in my mailbox.
Yep.
Right? But once in a blue moon, a real email gets marked as spam.
Yep.
And
I'd say like once or twice, like a quarter, that happens to me.
And then people, it's like, oh, if they're expecting the email, they check their spam filter and they find it. And if they weren't expecting the email, then they don't miss it. It's not a big deal.
So these platforms, like, there are solutions.
If someone adds me on Twitter, let's say I'd make a tweet and 1,000 people at me, right? And it blocks all the Nazis adding me, and it blocks a few nice ads that I would have liked to see.
Like a nice person who happens to have accidentally followed a Nazi bot, let's say.
Right. It's like, well, I'm not going to miss that ad. right?
Well,
It's not
I'm
like,
not going to miss someone who got caught in friendly fire because they accidentally follow a bot.
Right, but
Just like I'm not going to.
I'm just saying is that their message is not so important that the fact that it was blocked is like a big deal, right? But if instead, all the good replies get through and I see them all, but 2 Nazis get through and I see 2 Nazi ats, it's like, that's not good, right? It's like we want more blocking pretty much everywhere, right? You should block everything bad, even if it means blocking a couple good things, and that we've already determined that that's the correct model. It's just few platforms other than email implement that model.
So, that's all I got to say about that. Like, the problem is the people with power refuse to use their power. Either because, like, I think there's a lot of reasons why. Some of them have, like, this false nobility where, like, they believe there's a higher purpose, like some free speech thing. But most of them, it really just seems like they're in cahoots with shitty people, or they're dependent upon shitty people. And, like, Twitter...
Or they care more about numbers, and they believe that will help their numbers.
Yep. Well, like, I honestly think if Twitter actually blocked and banned all the bots and Nazis, they'd lose, like, a third of the accounts on Twitter, if not more.
Well, yeah, if you took all the number of Twitter accounts there are total, right, and you removed all the bad people, and you removed all the inactive accounts, and you removed all the bot accounts, how many accounts would really be left? I mean, there's a lot of people.
I think there's enough to have a thriving community and a great platform, but there's not enough to pay back those VCs.
Is there enough to pay for all the employees of Twitter? It's like this huge company with a shit ton of employees, right?
But how about this? If you got rid of all those accounts and prevented them from rejoining, maybe you need less infrastructure to stop just like how much infrastructure in Twitter is just passing Nazi bots retweeting each other at each other in a vacuum that no human ever sees.
Yeah, you're, if you're running just like a web server on the internet, right, and you just put it out there and you don't have any sort of protections on it, it's like you actually use a lot of CPUs and bandwidth just dealing with like random things on the internet, just like pinging your server and trying to connect to your SSH or scraping your website and all this stuff, right? If you just put little filters on there and you block, some naughty activities, right? Suddenly your web server is only doing the things you want it to do and you save a ton of money.
Yeah. All right. But anyway, it's Thursday, not a ton of news because we don't need to talk about the news that you should all be following on your own. Black Lives Matter, defund the police, like all that stuff is happening.
Don't get sick.
Don't come to us to get updates on that because we're 2 white guys. There are way better people to go to. And if you're not following that stuff, that's a problem.
Get your news from the same place that we're getting it from. Black people on Twitter.
Yep. If you wouldn't hear about that stuff unless we talk about it, that's a big problem. So, things of the day. What do you got?
What do I have? I forget. Let me check.
Let's get to the root of that problem.
What was it?
The bootleg root?
Oh, yeah. That's right. So, yeah, bootleg board games have been a problem for a while now. Partially because, there are laws regarding the intellectual property of board games are such that you can't control mechanics. You can
a game mechanic is not really inherently copyrightable. So if I design a game that is mechanically identical to a game that already exists, I can sell that. They don't have any claim on those game mechanics. They can't say that they have a copyright on the way worker placement works in their game. You can only copyright.
You can copyright the artwork. You can copyright the text of your rule book.
Yeah.
So it's like I'd have to basically write the rules that are equivalently the same, but not like copy their rule book.
You have to do what a lot of high school kids do when they all plagiarize the same essay.
Right. Exactly. But anyway, so for what's been happening is. There has been straight up bootlegging, which is where in places, usually in China, where board games are printed, right? Companies were printing out direct copies of existing board games. Like you would put in an order and say, I want 1,000 copies of my game, and they would make them. And then some other factory would make 1,000 copies of the game. That
sometimes even the same factory just makes another 1,000 copies and sells them on the black market.
Right. But it's like it looks the same, like exactly the same, right? The same exact rules text, right? But like the quality would be lower, right? It'd be shittier cardboard, right? The printing resolution would be lower, right? But an untrained eye would never be able to tell that, right? Only a nerd would know that was not an original copy of the game. And then they would flood the market with those on like Amazon. So you go on or anywhere else on the internet. So you go online and you're like, I want to buy a copy of Carcassonne, and a Carcassonne shows up, and it's a flimsy, crappy Carcassonne that looks like a normal one. And if you don't know better, you just got hosed, right? Because your money did not go to the correct company it should have gone to.
Some people might be like those anime fans who bought bootlegs on purpose because they were cheap. Like that happens too.
Right. But there's another level of bootlegging in the board game industry that goes on, which is where the people are taking Chinese mostly, as you can see in the examples at this link, right? The same exact game with the same exact rules, only translated into Chinese, right? So the game has not been licensed for the Chinese market. I think it doesn't look like it has been, right? And they redo the art. They don't redo the rules or the mechanics, it seems, based on what it looks like. But they basically take the exact same game and redo all the art completely, in their own style, and translate it, and then sell it in China. And it doesn't seem like they're paying licensing fees to the original creators. But yeah,
I mean, Patrick Leader even tweeted, he was like, "Remember, kids, real copies of Root have art lovingly made by Kyle Farron."
Right. It's like, you look at the art they made, though, and some of it is pretty astonishingly great.
Yeah, some of it is just astonishing.
Yeah, there's like a Hive game where they've replaced all the bugs with like some fantasy warriors of some kind, and instead of clacky tiles, they've used little tiny cardboard hexes. That looks pretty bad. But yeah, here's a whole thread of that second variety of knockoff board game in which the games have been redone. It's pretty terrific to behold. But yeah, this doesn't happen just with board games. It happens pretty much with anything.
Yep. So there was a meme that made the rounds a while ago. If you didn't see it, it was the potion seller. There is an adventurer, and it's one person doing the voice acting of the two characters. The adventurer wants to buy some potions from the potion seller, and the potion seller is warning the traveler that his potions are too strong and that he will not sell them to him. And it's just like a skit. It's okay funny. However, people started doing the thing where they were remixing this meme, and that started to get a lot of control. And it ended with this supreme work of art. Someone took the audio from the potion seller, they animated it in the style of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, added music to it, and turned it into a mini episode of JoJo's where a JoJo character is trying to buy potions from another JoJo character. It is too funny for this world, and this entire dialogue is like burned into my soul at this point.
Okay, if I have seen it, I don't remember it.
The potion seller meme it did not seem to appear in our circles. It came to me by way of a friend of ours who was in our circles, but also many, many very, very different online circles. And the intersection of a Burning Wheel game brought this to my attention.
Okay, sure.
In the meta moment, we're stuck at home. This is a long weekend. You're lucky we're doing a show today. Usually right before a holiday weekend, we'll bail.
I got off work at 3 today. I didn't have to.
I would have gone off at work 3, but there was an outage, and I'm the kind of manager person, like, if you've ever worked in like big iron IT, when there's a problem, there's like different classes of people who get involved. Like there's the person who desperately is trying not to get invited to the conference call that has a million people on it. There's the person actually fixing the problem that no one's actually talking to for some reason. There's all the salespeople who are on that conference call constantly asking for updates that no one gives them updates. And then there's the person who eventually joins the conference call, and as soon as they join, everyone gets quiet. And that person asks for an update and then leaves. That last part is the role I usually serve in these conference calls. But that meant I had to keep doing a lot of work right up until we did the show. I couldn't ease into the night for this long weekend like I normally would.
If it's 4:59, right, and my work says, "Oh shit, something's out. Can you help?" I say, "Yeah, I'll give you exactly 1 minute of help." Or in the case of today, if at 2:59 there had been an outage they wanted me to work on.
I get paid enough to where I am willing to work a lot harder when the time comes. But if that happened too often,
there is no such time.
But is there? All right, Scott. Here's a question for you: is there an amount of money? Is there a salary?
If I said you have 1 more minute to and I'm going to no longer work on this, and they said we will give you $1 million, I say okay, I'll work on this for another minute.
So, check out our YouTube channels, watch for our stuff. I'm working on things this weekend, things you might be interested in. We're working on some panels for some online conventions. We're working on a lot, but unfortunately, like we warned before, a lot of the projects we really want to work on are very hard to move forward when Scott and I cannot be in a room together. So we're making progress on things that do not require that, but the things that do not require that are much longer term projects where there's not a lot we can show you, and we're very hesitant to talk about them because that will imply that we have done more work than we have up to this point.
I've done some stuff that no one would notice. I upgraded the hardware of some of our servers.
Ooh.
And this thing still works, so you don't even know that I did that.
I set up and did some tests with my teleprompter and a streaming rig to do some other kinds of content.
Okay.
So, yeah, otherwise, we will eventually read The Tale of Genji, but right now, I don't have a lot of free time that I'm stuck in subways or trains or transit. Like, I feel like when I mostly read is when I'm flying, taking trains somewhere,
I can't even
at
go
work.
to the beach and do summer reading.
Like, at work.
I can't even go to a pool and do summer reading.
Yeah. Like, if we could go to Sandy Hook, like what we do this weekend, you and me and a bunch of our friends would be at Sandy Hook, and I would lay there for about 4 hours reading The Tale of Genji. Like, that's what I would be doing tomorrow, but I can't.
Yep. Nope.
Yep, so that's where we are. Wear masks if you have to go outside. Don't fly if you can avoid it.
Don't go outside if you don't have to. Don't go anywhere if you don't have to.
Yep. I'm going outside a lot, but I'm doing like long runs by myself.
Yeah. It sucks big time to not go outside, but you know what sucks worse?
Being anywhere other than New York right now in America.
Coughing your lung out and dying, right?
Yep.
So I'll just stay inside and be sad rather than die, because I'll be way more sad if I get COVID.
Yep. So one of the consequences of staying inside means that I subscribe to a lot more food boxes than I used to. We subscribed to some of these things before. What we're talking about, like the topic of the show, is basically those things like HelloFresh or Blue Apron or Misfits Market that are variously, we will mail you like 3 or 4 meals with recipes on a weekly or monthly basis. Right. Or now, we will mail you groceries where you don't quite get to pick. We're not talking about just food delivery like Fresh Direct. We're not talking about I can just put in an order for specific groceries
Fresh Direct
I want.
Does have some meal delivery stuff.
They do, but primarily I can pick exactly what I want for a specific delivery.
Sure.
We're talking about the ones where you don't 100% get to pick. They're like a subscription. Very similar to those boxes of here's some clothes. Try the ones you want, mail back the ones you don't want to keep.
Well, I mean, we spent a lot of time on this show berating, rightly so, various subscription boxes like the Loot Crate. And the thing with the Loot Crate
here's some garbage.
Right. Loot Crate is, we'll send you a box of mystery shit. You don't even know what you're buying. You're paying
I solved the mystery. This is the stuff we literally couldn't sell for any amount of money, and we're just trying to get it away. Mailing it to, getting you to buy it from us is way better than just throwing it in our dumpster that we actually have to pay for.
And we can also charge people on both ends. They'll pay to put advertisements in our box, right?
They're basically turning you into a dumpster that pays for garbage to be put into it.
Yeah. But the food boxes are a bit different, right? Because A, it's never a mystery what's in there, right? B, they're not dumping like the leftover food they couldn't sell, right? Like on
sort
you
of.
Unsuspectingly, right? Is like you're just buying food through a different channel than the grocery
Market
store.
is food that like couldn't be sold, but that's what I signed up for. Send me the ugly tomatoes.
Yeah. And the other thing is the way those sites, every single one of them I've used, and I've used a few, is set up in such a way where they let you know well in advance exactly what you're getting. You have even though you don't have a complete freedom of choice, there's limitations, you do make choices of what you're going to get. And if you don't like the choices, or if you have some reason that you don't want a box, even though it's a subscription, they're all weekly. You can just pick to skip any week you want. Right? You can just be like, you know what? I'm going to skip 20 weeks in a row. Or you can just cancel it at any time. Like I've clicked the cancel button. It just works immediately. It's like, okay, canceled. If you log back into our site, we'll turn it back on. Right? And every single one of them is basically the same in that regard. I've never seen one that does it differently.
Yep.
So they're not fooling you. They're not tricking you into buying some garbage, right? They're just selling you food that you need regularly, which is something you need regularly. It's food, right?
Yep.
You need to eat. And they solve some problems for people that the grocery store does not solve, right?
Especially people who live in cities, have small apartments, don't have giant pantries.
Right, don't have cars,
Yep.
right? Or don't live with a lot of people with a big family, right? So the problems that they solve is the biggest one, at least for me, is food waste. If I want to make a recipe and that recipe involves, say, Swiss chard, right? I go to the grocery store, they got Swiss chard there, it's pretty nice, but there's a minimum amount you can buy. I can't buy like one leaf,
Yep.
right? I got to buy a bundle. But then I get home and I'm making a recipe for 1 or 2 people and I use like 2 leaves. And unless I cook that same recipe several times, which I don't, who wants to do that? Or find like 10 recipes that all use Swiss chard and get sick of it, right? I just bought a whole bundle of chard, even if the price was cheap, and some of it's gonna go bad and get thrown out. There's like no avoiding it because I don't have a big family to eat a whole bundle, right? So when you order from these boxes, it's like, okay, we're gonna send you a meal all prepared with the exact ingredients for that meal, and if that meal needs 1 leaf, in the box is 1 leaf, and that's it, right? No food waste, which is, it feels really good to not have food waste. The second thing they solve for you is meal planning, which is like work, right? It's like, let's say I was going to go to the grocery and cook. I got to figure out what I'm going to cook. I got to spend time planning.
Yeah,
and
well, there's
making
2
up the
ways to go there.
grocery
Either
list
I have to plan and to go through this hassle like you're talking about, which, I'm busy. Like even during the quarantine, I don't have a lot of free time actually. But
yeah, it's like if we're talking about old shitty pre-feminist society where there's like a person who stays home and that is their job, right? Then you can accomplish that. But if you're talking about a modern, egalitarian, not shitty society, right? Well, I guess it's shitty that everyone has to work, right? But
yeah, but that's a different problem to solve.
Right. Regardless, the point is nobody's at your house spending all day meal planning as their job, right? So everyone's going to work or school or doing something productive that they want to do, and no one wants to do the work of staying alive. So you pay them to do it for you. They say, hey, here's some meals. We planned them. We provided you with the recipe and the exact ingredients. You don't have to go to the grocery store and figure out what to get or anything like that.
Now, being a better cook means you can buy groceries with less planning and still make good meals. But a lot of people, honestly, do not have the time in their lives to learn to be a good cook. That's a thing. We can't pretend that everyone has the time to become good cooks like we have. I think I'm a pretty good cook at this point. But 2, if I do that, and I know because I've seen this happen in my life, like when we lived in Beacon or during time periods in our lives when we were busy, really busy here, like a lot of cons, if I don't plan meals and I do grocery shopping, I can make a whole bunch of meals. But I tend to default to a pretty narrow set of the kinds of meals that I am very comfortable making, that I know intuitively, that I don't need recipes for, from a limited set of ingredients. So I don't tend to expand my horizons. I tend to make a lot of pastas and chilies and things like that. I don't tend to make something new. I don't try a new recipe. I just make something that I know is easy to make. So, but what that leads to is that pre-COVID, because once the quarantine happened, I have a lot of additional reasons that I'm using these food boxes. We're subscribed to way more now than we ever were. But Blue Apron was the one that I did first. And what I found was that it almost served like a cooking class, in that as these recipes came in, that there'd be a lot of certain techniques that I would learn, like how to cook a certain kind of spice a certain way, or how to deal with a certain kind of vegetable that isn't within your normal comfort zone, how to make a bechamel sauce.
Every time that vegetable would show up in a box, you deal with it pretty much the same way usually.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, now I know how to cook that vegetable.
I know how to make a bechamel sauce. I don't need to look up a recipe for that. Or if I'm making a complicated recipe that involves, it kind of like we talk about with board games. If you learn how to play Yahtzee and you learn how to play Dominion and learn how to play all these sub games, then a really complicated game becomes much simpler. By following these recipes over time, it forced me to become a much better cook, and I know how to cook a lot of things without looking at recipes. So I can look at a really complicated recipe now, and I can just glaze over all the easy stuff, like, okay, make a sauce, okay, deal with that, and only focus on the unique part of the recipe or the construction of the final meal. And that
anyway, so the boxes are pretty good for all those reasons. The ways that they are bad is that they are expensive, right? You're losing money versus if you had just gone to the grocery store.
This is way more expensive than buying all these things in a grocery store.
Right.
With the caveat though is if you buy all these things in a grocery store, you're going to throw a lot of it away anyway.
Right. You would be going to, most of them are about $20 for a meal that feeds 2 people with 2 servings. So it's about $10 a serving for pretty much all the boxes from all the different companies. There's some differences in there, but it's generally $10 a serving. So that's like sort of, it's not quite it depends, right?
It's a better deal for people like us who live in the city where groceries are just a lot more expensive.
Right. It's like
places.
for me to go out and eat, right? Would be, I'd only be able to beat $10 a serving going out to a restaurant if I got some real shitty fast food, right?
Yep, like the diner is still a little more than $10 a person.
Oh yeah, but like any food that I would go out to eat that's not fast food, it's like not McDonald's, not just some fried chicken or something from the Greasy's place, right? From Palace Fried Chicken or something, right? Anything that's not that is going to cost me more than $10. So I'm still saving money versus eating out because I'm in the city. But if I didn't live in the city, well, then eating out for less than $10 is a lot easier, right?
Yep. But also just grocery stores, like meat is more expensive here than it is upstate. Like
yeah,
that,
if you live in a suburb, the grocery store is cheaper. Even so, like yogurt, it's like for me to get a single little yogurt cup is like $1 to $2. In the suburbs, it'll be like 5 yogurt cups for like $2.50. It's like they're so cheap. It's like holy shit, they're less than $1 each, right? It's such a deal. So the food boxes are the same price no matter where you live. So you can save money. Possibly, or it makes more economic sense based on your geography, right?
Yeah, and also based on your living circumstances, because like Scott pointed out, cooking for one is it's kind of like a 1-bedroom apartment or a studio, like a 1-bedroom apartment versus 2-bedroom. Cooking for one versus cooking for literally any number of people other than one, it's like a whole different kind of cooking. And
I think it's like 1, 2, more than 2.
True, because cooking for one. Very rarely when I lived by myself would I ever make a side dish. Yeah. I would basically just cook one thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like most of these, for example, right? So when sometimes you get the food boxes, there'll be a meal, and most of the meals are 2 servings. So if you're only one person, you're gonna make the 2 servings, put one in the fridge, and eat it later.
Yep.
Right. If you're 2 people, well, you can just eat it all right then and there.
Yep. It's
That's
just
great.
dinner.
If you're more than 2 people, well, now you got problems.
But then you get the bigger, like some of these food services have things like they have options that really are tuned to people's lifestyles. Like there's one I saw that did a thing like you can choose a family meal that serves 3 to 5 and has like bigger quantities and portions and more side dishes.
For example, let's say one of the meals is just like some pasta. It's like, well, that's real easy to eat one and put the other one in the fridge, right? But some of them are like, oh, it's a steak with a side salad and some vegetable. It's like, well, if it's 2 servings of steak and a salad and a vegetable, it's like I need the second person to be here. I can't really put that in the fridge.
Yep.
Right. It's like I'm gonna make a salad and then eat half of it and then put half a salad in the fridge, and it's like, it's not great, right? You really need the 2 people to be there to choose that as a meal from the box. So if the meals choices from that particular company are a lot like that, then it's hard to do those as a single person. You need a second person.
Yep. But to get back to a positive, one thing I noticed when I was making these a lot is that if I try to cook elaborate meals, I tend to have to juggle a lot of things in the kitchen at the same time. Like if we do a big Thanksgiving dinner, like Friendsgiving or something, any big meal, I'm juggling a lot. Or if I attempt something different or new, even if it's just the 2 of us, I may end up using like 3 burners at the same time or something. Most of these services, the recipes are very much designed to need either just one pan, just one pot, or one pot and one pan. Like they're designed to where no part of the recipe will interfere with any other part of the recipe. Whereas someone who's not a great cook, like me a long time ago, if you just try to pick like, oh, here's a recipe for some pasta, here's a recipe for like some meat, I'm going to make these 2 recipes. Those 2 recipes might both need your oven with different temperatures at the same time. They might both need a pan and you only own one good pan. Like you run into these race conditions that these meal kits avoid.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the different services that we've tried, right? So the first one I did was Blue Apron because that was like sort of the first one, maybe?
Yeah,
or at least the first big one.
We both tried that one early on.
Yeah, I used it for like the longest of all of them. The things I liked about it were that you actually did quite a bit of like cooking, right? It's like they would usually, sometimes it was nice that they would like make you cook, but sometimes it was annoying. It's like, oh great, you
Well, it
sent me
made
some
me make a
fresh.
fucking bechamel sauce. Like, there was a period where it was nothing but either lemon zest or bechamel.
Right, it's like they'd send you a lemon and make you zest it, and it's like, all right, that's good. I get some nice fresh lemon zest instead of some lemon zest in a package, right?
Yep.
But then they'd be like, okay, here's some thyme. Pick all the leaves off the thyme. It's like, fuck, I don't want to do that. Couldn't you have sent it pre-picked, right? It's like, so Blue Apron makes you work a little harder. It also, the Blue Aprons, they sort of, when I was alone, they were sort of coming in. I guess they sort of changed because I mean, originally when I did it,
Well, they've changed a few times, and they changed in a big way when the quarantine started.
Originally, they forced me to do 3 meals minimum, and as a single person making 3 a week, there was like this pressure. It's like another box is coming with 3 more meals. Cook. It's like, oh god, it's like I didn't want to cook 3 times a week. It was sometimes I did, but sometimes I only wanted to do 2.
Yep. Sometimes we'd finish the show, and then you'd go home. Like Emily will be like, "We're gonna eat out tonight." You'd be like, "Oh, I got like a bunch of Blue Aprons I got to deal with."
I have to cook them because another box is coming. The pressure is on. I don't want to skip the next one, then I won't have food next week, right? But then they changed it to let me do 2 boxes of food, and that was way better because the pressure was like eased off. But yeah, Blue Apron is nice in that way.
It looks like they have an option now. Like you can pick an option of, hey, I have a pressure cooker, and they give you recipes tuned to the fact that you have one.
Of course, all of the services always let you choose your allergies or your tastes. Like, don't send me fish, don't send me any meat at all, don't send me wheat. You're totally good. Don't send me dairy, all that stuff.
Yeah, they're all pretty good about that. But the thing I liked, but then stopped liking about Blue Apron early, and when we canceled it, we started up again, but we canceled it for a long time, was that after I'd used it for a long time, I started seeing a lot of repeats of the recipes, and I wasn't learning anything new.
Yeah, they have a certain, once you've cooked Blue Apron recipes, you sort of know how Blue Apron recipes go, and then you can like, if you get another Blue Apron recipe, you're like, yeah, I've seen this technique, but yeah, I know what's about to happen.
Like nowadays, I make a lot of Blue Apron recipes without Blue Apron. I don't even look at the old recipe card they gave me. I'm just like, I'm gonna make that lemon zest pasta gnocchi. I can make a lemon zest pasta gnocchi right the fuck now and just make it.
Yep, it's like, I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna make me,
tell me to make a fucking bechamel sauce.
Right.
Every time.
You and the bechamel sauce.
Because there was a period where
Isn't it bechamel?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Anyway.
That was a thing. So, we always made fun of it, like, ooh, the lemon zest arrived.
Yeah, Blue Apron's added a new thing. I've recently turned it back on, and they have a meal prep option, which seems like...
we just turned that on, too.
I haven't gotten it yet, but it seems like what they're going to do is send me enough food to make 8 servings of food that I can all put away in the fridge and save and then eat over the week after like a single big cooking session.
From what I can tell, we tried it. It's great. It
looks like what they do is you make a bunch of different things and then you mix them into different combinations to get different meals, even though you've only cooked like maybe 5 or 6 different items.
Yep.
Right. So it's like, okay, you made this pasta and you made this side. Well, and you've made this meat and you've made this other side. Well, go pasta side 1, pasta side 2, meat side 1, meat side 2, and now you've got 4 different things.
Part of that seems to be with COVID and the quarantine. One, there were huge supply chain disruptions for a while. Like, it was dicey getting certain kinds of food. It's sort of normalized now, but that was the thing. There was like a month where like I couldn't even get fresh direct deliveries. Like, it was hard to get food. And a lot of these services actually stopped because they couldn't get their supplies either, or they were running out of certain things. So I remember Blue Apron changed their recipes to simplify them a little bit. They started to like limit the number of like available recipes they'd even have. And they started to, like, I think that's part of why they moved to this system, because that's the kind of thing, if you have a family in particular, you're stuck inside, you got to cook almost every day anyway.
All right. Well, one thing, that's something I did notice about Blue Apron is they would always tend to include at least one tricky ingredient in all their recipes.
But never 2 at the same time. It was, you never had 2 things to fuck with.
It almost felt like a DRM kind of thing, as like, hey, if you try to go to the grocery to make this recipe, you're going to have to get like 2 tablespoons of
cream of tartar.
Yeah. I have cream of tartar.
I have cream of tartar too, but a lot of people don't.
Like, they'd be like, yeah, 2 tablespoons of veg juice. Little do they know I'm overloaded with veg juice. But it's like, yeah, you're not gonna find that in grocery stores, right? So, or at least not, not
I mean, it's easier for us, but like one of them came with ghee, and that was really exciting. I know a lot of people do not have easy access to ghee.
Ghee is just clarified butter, pretty much. But It's like, you can make it too. But the point is that, yeah, a lot of people in like suburban type non-city places who don't have a giant grocery store with like an international aisle are going to be missing an ingredient. And if they don't know that they can substitute that ingredient or whatever, it's like, yeah, Blue Apron is sending you a tiny amount, exactly the amount you need. You can't use that recipe on your own. You're going to need to get it from Blue Apron again because that ingredient's hard for you to get. Maybe you'll buy it online. I don't know.
So
that was the thing Blue Apron did.
One we tried that we're still doing now too is purple carrot, which is all
I haven't done purple carrot.
It's all vegan recipes, and they are fantastic recipes. We've made some really good food. I'm gonna admit something though. We got it not so much because we're trying to go vegan, but because that's a really easy way to learn cooking skills that don't involve meat. Because one thing I've learned about cooking as I've cooked more and more is that well prepared meat can cover a lot of cooking mistakes in the other aspects of a meal in a way that when you're cooking like a purely vegan recipe, you really can't fuck anything up or it'll taste weird, and it forces you to get better. But two, it was just an easy way to cut down our meat consumption. Like if we got some Blue Aprons, like 2 Blue Aprons and 2 purple carrots coming every week, guess what? We're gonna eat half as much meat as we normally do.
Yep. So that's all you guys say about purple carrot?
It's really good, but the one thing I will admit is that as I've been cooking those recipes, increasingly, I will substitute the vegan butter, the vegan mayonnaise, all the vegan cheese for real cheese and real butter.
So what do you do with all the cheese and butter they send you?
Because that stuff tends to last forever, we keep it in the fridge usually, and we'll use it in another recipe later or keep it as like an emergency supply. Like here's some margarine that'll never go bad, but I'm not going to use it unless I'm forced to.
Okay.
But
right, so
the problem is the recipes taste 1,000 times better if you just substitute butter in for that vegan margarine.
Yeah, well, you're still not eating the meat is the point.
Exactly. Like I made some vegan burgers the other day.
All the other services do have vegetarian options, vegan options.
They all do. So, but like purple carrot is like particularly good. Like the recipes are great. Like I made some vegan burgers the other day where I made the patties myself. Like shred some beets, cook some rice, mush it all together in a blender. They were really good. But what they did not warn me about was that all the ways to make vegan burger patties are extremely difficult to deal with in the kitchen and make a gigantic mess.
Okay. Another one we tried was Home Chef.
Oh, I don't think I've tried that one.
We tried Home Chef. We did it for quite a while. I basically right after PAX East we signed up for it, and then I canceled it just like a couple weeks
right
ago.
as the quarantine was happening.
Right. It's like it wasn't even because of the quarantine. It was like, hey, after PAX East we're gonna be home and not have a schedule. Let's go get food boxes again. All right, we'll try this one. We'll see how it goes. Oh, let's hold on to this because we signed up with good timing. Home Chef was kind of like a little more sad than Blue Apron. Some of the meals did taste really good, but you were cooking a lot less. For example, one time
I tried a bunch of servers I don't remember the names where that's exactly what I was about to say, so you're heading me off here.
Yeah. A lot of the ones they would send would be like oven ready, and it was basically a tray with food in it, and you would do some stuff and just put it in the oven, take it out and eat it, right? It's like there wasn't really...
That feels like TV dinner.
One time they sent me this is the one I was most upset about, is the one where they sent rice. And rather than Blue Apron, they send you rice in a bag, and they say, make rice. And I just put it in my rice cooker.
Yep.
They sent this pre-cooked rice that was like...
Well, like parboiled rice? Ew.
Yeah, and it's like, it was just like, put it in a bowl with some water and microwave it. And I was like, ugh. I didn't even make that. I just made rice because I have rice. I was like, that's awful.
I feel like, you know what I've noticed? Some of these are clearly aimed at people who live in like urban environments, and some of these are definitely aimed at the suburbs.
Yeah, the food was a little more bland, didn't have those exciting ingredients that Blue Apron would send that you couldn't get yourself, right? Sometimes the ingredient quality was a little low, like they would send me a sad scallion and I would use my own scallion, right? I'd throw their scallion away. But some of the recipes in there were pretty good, and what you would do, there were a lot more choices than Blue Apron during the meal choosing part. And what we just had to do was make sure that when we were choosing meals, we didn't choose the ones that said like oven ready, right? Or didn't choose the ones that came with sad rice. Right? We could avoid those, and we could choose the ones that made us cook, and we could choose the ones that, looked more flavorful. There ones that they had that were flatbreads. The obviously the problem with those is that you need 2 people there to eat them because you
Yep,
can't really save
I'm a
one.
big fan of the flatbread ones I've gotten because there's 2 of
But
us.
the Home Chef flatbreads were all like way good ones. I was
Ooh.
into those. Yeah. Like because Blue Apron, I was like, flatbreads, but no, the Home Chef flatbread ones were quite good. Like I would just make those again, like buy some naans at the
So
store. Or
all
whatever.
the other things we tried I have the same complaints almost word for word that you just said. So assume a lot of the low tier ones are just kind of like that. One thing I noticed though across all of them, even the Blue Apron and like the nice ones, I have not seen any of them have anything spicy. And it's to the point
All of
where
them, all Blue Apron always says like add as much of the red pepper flakes
but
as
there's
you
the
want,
literal,
add
it'll
as
be
much
like,
of the hot sauce as you want, and I would always add all of it,
but
and it was
I
never
wish,
a problem.
I one time they were like add as much of the red pepper as you want, but be careful, it'll make it spicy. And they gave me this packet that had like 11 flakes of red pepper in it.
Yep.
Like,
And it mattered, but it wasn't spicy.
but like, is it just that the kinds of people who buy these food boxes are so white that they can't handle like any amount of spice? Is this
I'm
like
pretty sure
someone in the
that
Midwest like pulling the one red pepper flake out with a tweezer?
I'm confident that the customer base for these food boxes is almost entirely white people because non-white people don't need someone to tell them how to cook. They have, a culture of cooking, right?
These are definitely aimed at a yuppie, like urban demographic or like a particular kind of suburban
Right.
demographic.
And even though, I may be white, but I'm a Jew and I have a culture of cooking in my family, right? The Jewish food that we cook, the Jew meals of my family are meals for holidays and things, right? We don't have, the Jewish food to cook for every day, right? It's like, oh, there's a holiday. All right, now the Jewish food comes out, the chicken soups and the kugels and the breads and the.
But it's definitely like a common theme in all these food boxes is they will include spicy ingredients with a lot of warnings, but those spicy ingredients are not spicy. Like
there was
we're talking less
chef.
than the fire salsa from a Taco Bell.
It was either a Home Chef or a Sunbasket, which is one that we've done recently, that had a jalapeno in it the other
one whole jalapeno? Lord almighty, someone's gonna die.
So hold on. So I cut up the jalapeno. It had all these warnings like, clean your cutting board after you cut up the jalapeno and shit, right?
I'll clean my cutting board after I cut up like a habanero maybe or more.
So I ignored that. I just cut up the jalapeno and put it right. And then it was something really funny happened is that somehow the food wasn't spicy, obviously, right? The jalapeno wasn't spicy.
Yeah.
Somehow, like the capsaicin from the jalapeno must have gotten concentrated somewhere. Even though I washed my hands, it must have gotten I think it was under my fingernail or something, and then I poked myself in the eye somehow.
I've done that. You know what gets me? When I clean the seeds out of a pepper, sometimes I'll just use my thumb. Like I'll pull them out with my thumb.
It must have been something like that.
I've forced myself to do it with a spoon, no matter what, even though I just want to do it with the thumb.
The point is, it wasn't spicy at all. Nothing was spicy. The only spice problem was me poking myself with spice in the eye.
But see, this is what we're talking about. They warn you to clean your cutting board, cutting up a jalapeno. Really? That's the pepper you're afraid of?
Yep. But yeah, the Sunbasket is it's okay, right? I think some of the food from it was kind of tasty. It makes you cook a little more. One of them actually made me cook too much, right? It was like I had to have like 2 pots and the oven going at the same time, and that was like I wasn't happy about that. I was like, this is too much cooking.
Yeah, that's the cooking I do on a special occasion. That's not the cooking I do on a Tuesday.
Right, exactly.
So
that was kind of annoying.
We've gone on
and the ingredient quality was,
I guess the last one I'll talk about is, and we did this partly because, like I said, I couldn't get fresh direct deliveries for like a month when this whole thing started. Like it was hard to get groceries, but we were doing the Misfits Market, which isn't food kits so much as we will send you a variety of vegetables and fruits and things that are either damaged or difficult to sell in a grocery store because they're shaped weird or whatever, and they're real cheap. And we've just been using it as like, we get a whole bunch of vegetables and stuff every week and it supplements our food intake because we got to cook every goddamn day during COVID. Okay, I don't want to go out to grocery stores if I can avoid it. Fresh Direct sells out of things because there's supply chain issues. So we've diversified our ways to get food into our house. And this was a good way to get a lot of vegetables that are perfectly fine for not a lot of money.
The thing with something like that is I always worry about the food waste and also the pressure. It's like, okay, here's a bunch of random vegetables. Now you got to cook with them. Go, go,
So
go.
you
It's
do
like,
get
oh,
to pick
shit.
to a degree. Like they show like here's the things that are available, and you kind of pick like I want some of those and some of those, some of those. The good things just tend to disappear real quick. Like you got to jump on the site early. But the only thing that's been too much is, and other people who have this service have pointed out the same thing. We end up having a lot of beets and a lot of squash hanging around because those are the things we don't use right away.
Yep.
But
All
those are also things that kind of last forever. Like they don't really go
Maybe.
bad.
Yeah. So one last thing I want to talk about is, Fresh Direct, we said, is not a meal kit situation, right? It's just grocery store online,
Yep.
right? And then they deliver the groceries that you pick specifically. It's like it's the same as going to the grocery store or Amazon Fresh, same thing. It's like
Yeah,
you're
like
picking
it's
exactly
my
what you
grocery
want.
store. I don't go to
Yeah.
grocery stores. I go
Right,
to
you
Fresh
pick
Direct.
exactly what you want, and they give you exactly what you want. But Fresh Direct does offer a meal kit that you can choose to buy. So we did buy one of those. It was like a chicken broccoli thing, I think.
Yep.
And I gotta say, it was the saddest. It was
I've
like
heard that from other people. They're basically like they're the kind. They're those pseudo TV dinners that like grocery stores sell in the suburbs sometimes.
it was literally. I open up this box, and inside is like a broccoli, a chicken, and a rice, and a sauce.
Wow.
And it's just like I don't need to look at the instructions, but that's way sad. It's just
Yeah.
like
Way
it's like
better. Like,
You
I
open
like-
up if you open up a Blue Apron that was for chicken and broccoli, right? You would see a broccoli and a chicken, right? But you would not see a sauce in there to apply, right?
No,
you would
you'd see like here's some spices and things
you
to
would
make
see-
a sauce.
You would see several ingredients with which to make the sauce, right? Together, right? And you would also see like, more stuff to put in there besides just broccoli, rice, chicken. There would be like it'd be like some peppery stuff, some peppers to put in there, maybe like, some water chestnut.
Yep.
There'd be like, it would be more busy, right? And more varied, contrasting tastes, not so plain and sad.
Yeah, I find with a place like Fresh Direct, like the sweet spot for
And
that.
they probably have you roast that broccoli and then put it in, as opposed to just like steam the broccoli and make it real sad.
Yeah, steamed broccoli is usually pretty sad.
Yeah.
But like the middle ground there is the thing about like a place like Fresh Direct that's good is not those kits, because those kits are just those kits are the pits. But they do have a lot of prepared food. Like if I want to do a marinated pork chop or something, like marinated meats and things like that, I can buy them in bags with their marinade like already done and just ready
Regular
for me to
grocery store has that too.
Exactly. It's the kind of thing a regular grocery store does. I feel like that is a better option than getting a meal kit from most grocery stores.
Sure. But yeah, so I guess the final thing is, if you are someone who doesn't live with a big family where you can go to the grocery store, load up on large quantities and eat it all, right?
Yep.
Or you have a busy life and you can't spend time meal planning, or you have few people, you don't want to do food waste.
Yep. Or honestly, if you think
like cooking, you have the time to cook at least a quick 20-minute, 30-minute meal. You just don't want to do it necessarily every day.
If
and
you
have
think
the
you're
money,
a bad cook and you want to learn to get better, you can almost treat it like a cooking class.
yeah, and you have the money to afford one of these things, right? Then I would highly recommend, picking one of the, try different ones, because you can cancel them and skip them and all very easily. You can get one box free. There's a lot of free sample boxes you can get, discount boxes.
Yep.
If it's your first box.
Dude, you know how many of our friends we'd pass around like the code? Like one of us tries the service gives us like, here's codes to give 10 of your friends a free trial.
Yeah, if you want any codes, I have codes for tons of these things. I can send you one probably.
Yeah, we
right,
just
or
kept
Rim
passing
Pan,
them
right?
around, and everyone did like one free week of a box from a random service.
Yeah,
Why
you
not?
can just try all of them, see if any of them work for you. If they don't, okay, cancel them, and that's it. But yeah, they are. They might be good for you. They might help your life. They might reduce your food waste and help you eat better and cook better, possibly, for a small fee.
So yeah, that's it. Stay safe out there. We came up with a Thursday show without too much trouble, and we live streamed it successfully. Things are slowly getting slightly back to normal in the Geek Nights world.
I'm hungry right now. What am I gonna eat?